About 3 years ago, when I was really stumped working on my main book project that I've been working on for years now, and I got really stumped and very confused and I didn't know what to do, I decided to take a step back and go back to work on an old project of mine that mixes magic and witches, angels, and demons. And then I tried to rework the story and I tried to rework it to be able to work on it, maybe to take my hands off of things. And then I was trying to figure out a coven for the main character to have because she's a witch and like she should have characters. And then I started like doodling them and creating them, and then can you see it? I fell in love with the character and I decided to actually make an entire book about him before doing the book that I was supposed to do, and then I fell in love with the character and I built more characters, and then I have an entire book and I'm almost done with it, and this is a video where I'm yapping about these characters. Hi, hello, my name is Gabio and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are doing some yapping. So hi. That was not planned to happen necessarily, but last time that I was planning on doing stuff, so after I did my whole fan art speedrun like 2 months ago, I decided that I wanted to do some OC stuff because I got really brain rotted with my OC Oliver. And last time we talked about that story was actually a year ago, more or less, and I was talking about the demon side of things. And so I thought, now that you guys know a bit more about the general world building of that story, maybe we could work now on the characters. And so this is what this is. This was supposed to be the smaller part of the video. The video was originally supposed to be more like backgrounds and trying to find a cover for that universe and that book, because at the time of recording this, I am almost done with Oliver, and by almost done, I obviously mean that I've been putting it on and off for the past 2 months because I'm scared of finishing the first draft. But then I got really carried away, so this was supposed to be like doodles, covers, backgrounds, etc. But then it accidentally just became like drawing 9 portraits for fun. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm simply going to show off the characters. I'm going to talk about them a bit. That being said, I also want to talk about the general story, and I want to invite you in. It's not necessarily going to be linear. I am just going on my new ADHD meds and trying to be a lot more concise than I usually am, but also you know my way that I like to tell stories. I speak fast and I just try to put a lot of information because that's how my brain works. And that's also the kind of videos that I love watching the most, but I digress. Let's go on with the art pieces. The concept of all of these was basically that I wanted to do the student cards headshot for all of these characters as if they were like on photo day. So all of them are going to be showing a bit more of their personality, but also how they would like to present themselves to the world without necessarily being what they are like on a day-to-day basis, if that makes sense. For the funsies of it, each of these backgrounds have a special Easter egg on it. I think it's pretty obvious, but if you want to have fun and try to find what they are, I think that's fun. I know you can already see a character behind me, but before we do that, I want to talk a bit about this world. This book is written with a really close protagonist, first person, present tense POV. So all of the characters are always seen through his eyes, and he comments through the world as we read the book. So it's very much centered on what Oliver sees and perceives. And he's completely delusional. And I love him for that. So this is supposed to be the characters as they are in real life, and not necessarily how they are described in the book, because Oliver sees them with a lot of bias. All of this here is not necessarily canon, because I, as a writer, believe in the fact that if something is not explicitly in the book, my words for it does not matter. So basically I'm just drawing them the way that I created them, but not necessarily how Oliver perceives them, because that's the only thing that matters ultimately. As the book starts, Oliver joins the university, and in the university there is a coven, which his roommate is a part of, and that's how he gets introduced to the coven. Most of the people in the coven are also either going to the university or a staff of the university. So let's start with Alex. He is a senior year student, and he is Oliver's first mentor figure. His role in the coven is that he's going to be the next matriarch, if you want, the next like leader of the coven. He definitely takes his responsibility really much at heart. So his role is to teach the newcomers on the coven, which is Oliver and 2 other characters, to make sure that they're best suited to be as good as they can be. He is very closed and very dry, and he takes a lot of pride in separating his personal life from the coven. Visually, he's very much like emo. He's very much like a smoker boy, basically. I really like him. He was not supposed to be in draft 1, but he made it. Throughout the book, I wanted a mentor figure, and so he came about, and he's almost the voice of reason. You guys also have to know that this story is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. I feel like that's important to say. Let's go on now to Audrey, which probably started again. Sorry. So Audrey is another newcomer to the coven. So just like Oliver, she's supposed to be very new to this world, but her and Sydney are actually friends with Cassie, which we'll see a bit later. So Audrey knows more than Oliver when he comes to. Oliver doesn't know anything about magic. He didn't know that was a thing. But because of Cassie, Audrey and Sydney know more and like are more aware of what's going on. So she knows a lot, and she's very open-minded and kind of chill. She's just like friendly and nice and a bit naive at times, I think. But she's really, really generous with her time, and she's basically the only friend that Oliver meaningly does into the coven. But Oliver doesn't necessarily see it that way because he's a fucking freak. Visually, I really wanted her to have purple hair. I really tried my best to give that kind of like curl pattern a go. I hope I did a good job because I really, really tried. And I like the values a lot of that piece. So yeah, that's Audrey. And now her best friend, Sydney. Sydney is a lot less present than Audrey in the book just because Oliver doesn't get as close as they are, but they're really cool. They're a chill, non-binary kid with computer programming skills. Their hair is actually inspired by a hairstyle that I saw on TikTok and I was really intrigued by, but I don't quite remember the name at the moment, but it was really cool. I'll try to put pictures of references and maybe the name on the screen. But it turned out super fun. I think it adds a lot to his silhouette and makes him like a really unique character from that whole group. Sydney is just a kid that is friend with Cassie, friend with Audrey, and like not necessarily into the witchcraft like aspect of it as much as other people, but he's also like down with it. He thinks it's pretty cool and he just appreciates the opportunity, which is incredibly funny, especially considering like the sacrifice you need to do to be a witch in that universe. They didn't change much between their first and second design. This was basically just me like making them as good as I wanted them to be, but I feel like they're pretty much in the same vein. They wear a lot of jewelry, he has a lot of like grit to him and his personality. Sydney's just a really fun character to like, he's kind of an unfortunate character in a way in this story because like we don't hear much about him. A lot of times he's a bit more shy, so Audrey talks in his place, but he's also very competent and very intelligent. He studies in computer programming. He could be a lot more involved than he ends up being, and that's kind of like the tragedy of his character, but he's just like a good presence to the people who care about him. Let's go on right now to the next one, which is Cassie, which I love a lot. She was always one of my favorites. She doesn't appear as much either because like a lot of the book, since it focused so much on Oliver, obviously the characters that are the closest to Oliver, like as a character, are going to be the ones that are the most present. And so she is not that present, but she is so cool to me. She studies in fashion design, and so because she studies in fashion design, I always try to bring her in like interesting, cool outfits that I knew people that wanted to work into fashion were kind of wearing. So like not over the top, but just like different and unique and styling mostly. She is super, super interesting as a character. She's older. She's kind of like the same as Alex. But compared to him, she very values her own life and her own life outside of magic. And so she's not as close to not only the coven, but magic in itself. And I think that's a really interesting character in that way because of the fact that she has like that distance with something that asks so much of her. Especially because she sees it kind of like as a side project. Like most of the time she would much rather work on her own things, which are mostly fashion, but other side projects. But like she helps the coven still, and she's one of the most like intelligent one and one of the most like experienced ones. So it's really like cool. And something that's really interesting about her, if you've seen the original video that when I was talking about the magic system, her partner, so the person that gives her the magic, is actually an angel, a fallen one, but it's an angel nonetheless. And so because of that, I imagine that like if I were to ever do animation or art of them in action, which eventually maybe, her magic is a lot more sparkly and it's a lot more like flashy, in your face, colorful. And I think that represents well in her personality too, that she's bright, she's colorful, and she would like her friends to also go into that path because she's not like an angel follower in the way that other people in that story is, but she does think that the powers of the angels are like kind of more impressive than the ones of the demons, and she kind of has like a little like fun aspect with that. And so yeah, I really, really like Cassie. She is such a great character. I'll go with Catherine next. Catherine is a really hard character. She's the first person from the coven that Oliver ever meets in the book. She's kind of fucking annoying. Catherine is very self-minded. She has her own opinion, her own world, and she's very involved into the coven, especially with the leader of the coven, but she keeps it under wraps a lot because she doesn't believe people much in general. She's very to herself, and her and Oliver like despise each other like almost immediately, but also, they're the same. They both don't trust people, and they both like have a really high judgment, like moral high ground on everyone in their lives. And because of that, she is very like off-putting to him, and they hate each other. Her design is really, really fun because of her type of magic. She really likes to play with plants and with growth, and so she's very oriented towards climate change and towards like that kind of aspect of people that I've met in university and people that I've met in real life that are very much like their cause. They're fighting for it, and that's what she is as a character. She fights for the cause, and she wants life to be better for everyone, and she really much judges people who she doesn't necessarily have the perception that they're going in the same direction than she is. Because of that, she doesn't always do the best decision, I'll say, but even less, she's great. I really, really like her. In relationships towards the other characters, she's probably closest to Alex because they're the closest in age and she trusts him a lot. But overall, she is very secretive. She's like a minor antagonist for Oliver to like bicker about and to hate her. Like I said, because this book is so oriented towards what Oliver thinks, she is oftentimes described as like ugly more than the other characters. Not because she is. I actually think that she's really pretty, but he like keeps focusing on the fact that she has a big nose and downturned eyes. And I want you guys to know that if ever this book comes out and you're like, well, she doesn't actually on your art, it's on purpose. Oliver focuses on the pieces of flaws that he finds in people that he dislikes, kind of like how people do in real life. And I always love when people integrate that into their own books, and so like I'm really happy that I'm being able to like show it in mine. I'm like congratulating myself on a book that's not even out, but whatever. After that, let's go with Xenon. Xenon is non-binary and they're a really good time. They are actually like a representation of something that I really like in that world building, in which usually you're forced to be in a contract with a single demonic entity, but Xenon refuses to. Usually the way it goes is that while you're studying, you would experiment with different type of like magic with short-term contracts. But what Xenon does is mid-term contracts for all of them. So for example, Cassie works with an angel, right? And that's her own character, like her own like entity, but Xenon has plenty that they use interchangeably. And so because of that, they keep doing short-term contracts with a bunch of demons that have like no long-term repercussions. And so that makes them very powerful because basically their soul is like more valuable because there's no one to defend it and multiple people that hate them. So a lot of people are like trying to bet who was going to get them first. Like even on the short-term contract, it is better for most of the demons to see them dead than to like help them. So there's very little good aspects to their personal life, but there's so much more to what they can do. And so that's kind of the gamble that Xenon brought forward. And they're really, really fun. I really like them. They're silly. They're kind of like jovial. They're very similar to some people I've met in college and university that had like that kind of air, especially people who are out and proud. They're very friendly, but not overbearing. They talk a lot about the fact that they're queer, which is always fun. They off-put Oliver so much, and I love them for that. They're like my bestie. I totally had forgot about Jesse. Jesse is unfortunately so forgettable, but that's okay. Oliver hates him. The first time I conceptualized Jesse, all I wrote down was like pretty boy and a bowl cut, and that was basically it. He is pretty much a background character because he's not important to Oliver as like a universe. But if I were to describe Jesse, he is a lot more reserved than the others, and he's a lot more like away. He keeps most things at bay, and he like some of the others, he wants to keep it very separate, but even more so. He like doesn't even want to be friends really with the people from the Coven. But in a way, that's because he wants to be Alex. He's basically the next Alex, the next one in line. And so he wants to like already keep that like pretentious away feel to him. He works with a rather important demon from the story called Prédécette, which makes him a powerful potion worker. I unfortunately don't have art of Prédécette, but I wish I did. Doesn't have a lot going for him. In this design, I really wanted to just like show off that he has like this button-up and like vest on top. The way this university works, it's not like a private university or anything. It's very much based on the university I actually went to. But it's just like kind of a flair that I like to add that like, even though there's no actual uniform to be like very like strict and restricted, there's still a uniform that they could buy. My university had that, I'm pretty sure, especially in certain like programs that were more like based around being part of the university. And so that's kind of what him and another character end up having. He represents the university colors, which are this like red pink that I'm obsessed with, and this like ochre yellow that's very pale because army. But those are kind of the colors of the book, and they're the colors of the background too. These are also the colors that I used for shading and lighting, and because I love consistency. Jesse changed a lot because he went from just like a white guy with a bowl cut to like textured haired, a darker skin complexion, just because I could add the variety, honestly. So yeah, there's not much to say about him, but he's chill. He's there. He serves his purpose. Now let's go talk about Jake. And then they were roommates. Jake is the other one that has a similar like top than Jesse does, and Jake is, as I just said, the roommate of Oliver. He is where everything goes wrong, but he's so great. Jake is a smiler. Most of the time in the book he just smiles. He's just like such a positive energy and a bright light in a room. He cares, he's compassionate, he's very much involved, and he cares too much at times, but he's very much into the like communal aspect. He happens to be native, again for the sake of variety and to represent where I come from and like reclaim my culture in a way. He has 2 moms that are witches, so he's a legacy witch, and he's so fun to be around. His whole problem, or his whole setup in the story, is that although he is one of the most, he should know the most because he grew up in witchcraft, he's a legacy, he doesn't know the leader per se, like personally, or his moms don't necessarily, but like he's part of that world. He's always has been, but even with that taken into consideration, he refuses to settle. You'll see that like choosing a demon is kind of a metaphor, not fully, but it's kind of metaphorical to just simply finding a partner, because that's kind of what it is. It's just like finding someone that you're going to spend most of your life with, and there's even like mated for life demons, but that's another thing. But because of that aspect, he refuses to settle, but he's an incredible potion worker. Not in the same way that Audrey and Jesse are, because they work with a specific demon that is good in that, but because he goes a lot with like nature. He has his mom's recipe, he knows what to find and how to build, and then ask just for the last finishing touch by an actual demon that he can do a one-time deal with every time to finish it off. He has a very unorthodox potioning style, and he is actually the one that teaches Audrey, when she gets a demon, to how to build potions, and he's a ray of sunshine. Fun bit, he was actually supposed to be the main love interest of the story. Like, Oliver was supposed to like kind of go crazy and like realize that he's like having feelings for his hot roommate with how charming he is, which is why he's so charming as a character, just to build a bit of tension. But I fucked up, guys. I created a freak, and I got obsessed with the freak, and I fell in love with the freak, so Oliver had to fall in love with the freak. I digress. We'll get to him. But nonetheless, he is like kind of the voice of reason, kind of the person that Oliver goes to when he needs help, but also the person that like offers Oliver the most help, but also that Oliver refuses because Oliver has issues. But he's very much supposed to be this like good presence in the book, to like one that's like genuinely and only has good intention, compared to the other ones who all have like their own personal agenda. But I love Jake. He's really, really fun, and like I think he has like a lot of fun bits in the book, and I think that like his compassion is very like important to a story that can be kind of dark at times. So yeah. Next up, let's talk about Kay. She does have a full name, but for the sake of the book and because it's a plot point, you won't know it right now. Kay, specifically the name that she uses with her coven members. It's not explicitly in the book, but you could assume that she uses a fake name as well when she works, so when she's like part of the staff. And that's because her name is a lot of power. She is technically the matriarch of the coven, so she's the one in charge, the one that decides what they do and when they do it. Because of that, she's very hands-off. Oliver does not like her because of the fact that she is a leader and he doesn't like authority figures, and that's very much projection from myself. She's not evil, she's not mean, she's actually really kind and very generous, and on the side, I'm actually working on the potential future of that universe, and she would be a part of it, but I digress, that's years in the making. Kay is very much a planner. She's like someone that will decide what they do as a coven, and because of that, Oliver has disdain for her. She is really powerful, but refuses to use her magic most of the time, and there's obviously lore bits in there that I won't reveal quite just yet. That's gonna be for the book, but she is really powerful, really cool. I'm not sure if I like her design. I think she looks maybe too nice, but also I don't think like she needs to look evil necessarily or look mean. I think like for the fact that it's like a photo day and that she's a staffer, she would want to have like that bubbly outsidey exterior, even though that's not really who she is as a person. And yeah, I really like her as a character. She's very interesting, and I'm really excited to develop her more. I'm gonna keep it really short because I do not want to spoil accidentally. And then We are at the trio, the center of the universe, the center of my universe for the past few months. I'm obsessed with them. Let's go with Clara. She's Californian, she's an exchange student, and low-key, that's the only thing I can say right now. I really like her design. The way that she's described in the book and the way that I've, like, fell in love with her is messy blonde, like, kind of like sandy hair because like she spends a lot of times in the ocean, a big red sweater because she's a safety guard, so someone that saves people from the pool. She moved from California to Quebec, which is where the book is set, obviously, because that's where I come from, and I like to write about what I know. Because she's an exchange student, she just so happens to be in the same creative writing class in Oliver's because they have the same major. She's very playful, she's very fun, she's very coy, and she gets in Oliver's head a lot. And she's a queen. I love her. I'm not going to say anything else because I think that she's better experienced read than she is told. But yeah, that's Clara. And now for the bane of my existence, Devon. You've seen him before on this channel, obviously, in the last video they talked about the same universe because he's one of the main demons. The only one that is going to be drawn today. The thing with Devon, here's my creative process. I needed to have an introduction to demons because of the story point. So at some point he shows up, and then the chapter in which he appears in draft 1 is called That Demonic Smile because I think that's funny. And then he was just supposed to be like a one-off character that's like recurring in a way that like he does a bridge between the witches and the demons and he's just like kind of there. Then I fucking fell in love. This is a self-indulgent ass character as far as I'm concerned. I have so much I could say about him. Like, he could be the main character and I would be completely okay with it. I think he works better as a foil to Oliver, but that's another point. If you cut him down to essential, what he is someone that outwardly is very friendly, outgoing, over the top, kind of slutty, being like an incubus and all. He does a lot of like double innuendos, especially when you meet at first because he thinks it's funny. But like he's very like flirtatious and over the top and very much like he's a beast onto himself, right? But inside there's a lot more like vulnerability to Devon that is not seen by most people because he would like people to associate him with the front that he wants people to perceive him as. And then who he actually is like hidden behind a paywall, kind of like you need to like really break it down to find him. And for him it's a lot easier for everybody to assume that he's like that horny bimbo over there than to like see him for what he is, which is someone that's like deeply lonely because he doesn't feel like he can have a full-on meaningful connection to people because of his status as not only a demon but specifically a sex demon, specifically one that has to hide out on Earth and not in like the hellscape because he was like driven out of the hell. As stated in the past video, the hierarchy of demons is really defined by the amounts of horns that they have, and as you can see, Devon only has one. It was actually given to him by another witch that is not important as of now, because let's face it, he was desperate. He was the best solution that he could find because he needed to help them to survive. So like even his own existence on Earth is not for himself, so he feels like he's pitiful, he feels like he can't do much, he's not really a fighter, he's not very a manipulator that much because he cares too much. He's like quote unquote a bad succubus because he gets too attached to people and he falls too quickly, and that's fully self-indulgent. Fully. I fucking love him. There's something about him, like I could put him in a jar and like look for hours. When I started sketchbooking at the beginning of the year, pages of just Devon, like different shapes he can take, different forms he can take, different outfits I can put him in, just a bunch of Devons, and I'm in love with him. He's so good, and I think he's such a good foil to Oliver, and he's a good way to like show Oliver's like more vulnerable sides, and especially like break down Oliver's like guards, because like Oliver is so guarded and has like such a specific opinion of other people that he can't keep up with Devon because Devon is so attaching, and that's probably because I think that Devon is attaching. So yeah, and for the piece I just wanted him to be like he's not really a student. For most people, he kind of just hangs out on campus, which could be weird, but there's just like houses on campus, I guess. He's a friend to the Coven. He's basically the Coven's PR representative in the sense that like he finds the other demonic entities so that people can like bond and like make contracts. And he's really good at it. That's like his role. For the outfit, I gave him this red jersey, which I love that he has a couple of times throughout the book. His form is like basic. Generally, Devon can take any form whatsoever. I generally tend to put him in like Wasian type of features. Especially when I doodle him, that's just like kind of like the vibe I'm going for when I'm looking for references. That's kind of like where he inhabits in my brain. But he's completely gender fluid and can look literally like whatever the fuck he wants. He just like very much prefers being a man, and he also prefers being with men, although he's pan. and his features can change dramatically depending on what he wants to do. Like, because like it's really fun that sometimes it's very purposeful. He's like, oh yeah, today I'm gonna look like that, and sometimes it's just like, fuck, I woke up like this, I guess, and I don't really care. I love Devon. You love Devon. Please love Devon. And finally, the one, the only main character, Oliver. Oliver's a fucking bitch. All of this started because I got obsessed with the fact of someone being so incompetent at life and then being so judgmental. Oliver's a very unique kind of character in my opinion because he is very like abrasive. One trope that I really like in main characters especially is what I've found myself calling radical selfishness. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that every character that fits in that trope are bad, but examples that I have and that I usually come back to is Katniss Everdeen, Husitian from Iron Widow, the main character from Hell Followed With Us. These characters' whole existence should not happen, and their survival is selfish, and that's a good thing. I love these characters and I like the way that they are, but I like when a character's whole existence should not happen, and Oliver doesn't fit in that. But he thinks he does. He thinks his own existence is revolution when he's just some guy. He has a lot of past traumas that he hides very well, but that shape him a lot. His whole thing is that he needs so deeply the approval of people, but he won't accept it if he receives it. So, like, for example, Oliver, the first time we meet him, he enters his new apartment that he shares with Jake. And for one entire chapter, he just digs through the entire apartment. Latex gloves on, going through everything Jake has, everything that is there, trying to find something or like a proof of what we don't know. He's trying to like analyze to have all of the information. Oliver has obviously a lot of trauma, but there's something so specifically wrong about him. People who read the book so far follow in two camps. There's me and Angel that are like, oh, he's such a bitch, but he's so pitiful, I love him. And there's people who can't fucking stand him. There's something about Oliver that is very divisive, and I really like that in a character. I like when a character is hard to read. Two like very big examples of Oliver's archetypes are Cal Nova from the Atlas 6 series and Snow from Ballads, Songbirds, and Snakes. I wanted to write this character that like is purposefully hard to read and to sympathize with, but somehow, some way, you still get really attached to them. Breaking down Oliver's psyche is very easy. He just wants someone to tell him it's gonna be okay. But again, he has too much pride to not only ask, but to also accept that that person is not lying to him. Visually, I want him to be kind of the most boring of the group. He has this yellow turtleneck that he has a lot throughout the book. Obviously, he doesn't describe his own clothing a lot. Generally, in most of the scenes, I imagine him either with that yellow turtleneck or later on in the book with a brown trench coat that has significance. I want him to be the most on model, obviously. So his face is modeled very closely after an actor and a director from Quebec that I really loved called Xavier Dolan. And then his hair is pretty much straight up taken from like Charlie Dempsey from WWE NXT and from other sources like that that are like curly, kind of long. He takes a lot of time to care about his hair, more than he would like you to know. He's such a bitch. I fucking love him. I'm obsessed with Oliver. Oliver and Devon together? Baby, that's food. But yeah, Oliver is such a unique character, and like the way that he's written, the way that he acts in my brain is so unique and fun. If ever the story is to be published, I really hope that Oliver's as divisive that I want him to be, but I also hope that there's so many people out there that see his qualities and like get attached to him, and they see the like love that he deserves, because I really, really think that as much of a bitch that he is, he fully deserves it. And so, this is a full lineup. I usually stop here to do a montage, but I feel like I'm in a renaissance. I feel like I don't do enough videos to have like that kind of time, so I'll just speak while they go through in the background. I hope you had a good time. I hope you like these characters. This is kind of different for me. I usually don't try to talk necessarily about characters, my OCs at least, but like it's always so liberating to do so, and it's just so fun. They've been on my mind so much recently, and I feel like I'm in such of an art renaissance now. So I know I've been saying that in the last video too, but like my next video is going to be an ode to a YouTuber that I really love, that I referenced plenty of times because of the fact that like the way that they started to talk about their art and the way that they are sketching especially has been giving me so much like inspiration. All of these characters were first sketched out in my new sketchbook that I've been filling out. I almost finished a like over 160 page sketchbook in like 2 months. I'm starting my 3rd month and I have like 20 pages left. So like it's crazy. I feel like I've been doing so much, and I feel like my art is improving a lot, and so I'm really happy they did this video, and I hope that you like it, and I hope that you don't mind me rambling about characters that I love. Yeah, so that's it for me right now. The next video is definitely going to be a bit different, and also it's going to take a fucking while because I've decided that I needed to do an art challenge video. I think I'm gonna try something new. I think I'm gonna drop them as I finish them. So like, it's not gonna be once a day, but it's gonna be like every few like days, every few weeks, and then see you in a couple of months when I do the full video talking about all of them in their process. I already started on the first prompt and I'm already overthinking it, so that's gonna be really fun. So you can always check all of my other social medias, especially probably like Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram to see, and Tumblr, always. I keep forgetting Tumblr, but to see what's going on. Thank you a lot for coming around. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you probably in a while. See ya.